With a $100 minimum opening deposit, our 406 checking account offers free paper statements, no minimum balance, and a free Visa check card. And you can access your account anytime, anywhere. Switching is just a click away. So stop by any of our convenient locations and open your account today. Still local, still free. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking, member FDIC.
John and Terry here, Blackfoot River Outfitters, starting 2020 with good news. It's swap time.
Mark your calendars. Saturday, March 7th, Blackfoot River Outfitters' 9th annual fly fishing gear swap.
Selling some of your used fly fishing gear? Drop it by our shop anytime before March 5th.
Great deals and quality used gear. Fly rods, reels, waders, boots, fly lines, even boats.
Gear up for 2020 by joining us Saturday, March 7th at our fly fishing gear swap and annual store sale from 9 to 3.
That's at Blackfoot River Outfitters across from Lowe's on Reserve Street.
Do you or your business have audio needs? Missoula Broadcasting Company has you covered with full-service audio production studios, fully staffed with a suite of equipment and tools to produce professional studio-quality audio. Anything from podcasts, radio commercials, social media campaigns to audiobooks. If you can hear it, we can handle it. Missoula Broadcasting Company is your audio headquarters. For rates and more information, call the Missoula Broadcasting Company today at 406-721-6800.
Simon from Craven's Coffee on long-term relationships.
The roasting community has somewhat of a reputation for being a little fickle. The farmers, they would much rather sell coffee to an importer or a roaster for 6 years at a really good price than 1 year at an outrageous price. So it's the long-term relationships that are so good for the farmer, and they're good for the roaster because it provides you consistency in the green coffee, which means that you can roast coffee consistently for your customer, which means that when they are drinking the trail blend tastes the same. I am on my way to Costa Rica, and the purpose of that visit is to refresh a relationship that is now in its 8th year. The Costa Rica Monte Crisal from the Palmares Cooperative has been a solid coffee for us for many years.
Find your favorite Craven's Coffee blend at grocery stores, restaurants, coffee shops, and online at cravenscoffee.com.
I have Dr. Stephen Hardy here from Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates. Dr. Hardy, it seems like seeking surgical or non-invasive solutions to problems like sagging skin and wrinkles is becoming much more common for both women and men. What questions should folks be asking when researching these procedures?
You know, the most important things to know about your plastic surgeon are if they're certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgery and if they're a member of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons. I take great pride in being a board-certified plastic surgeon for 25 years and having been provide this care to the community in western Montana for the past 20 years.
How does someone know what kinds of procedures are best for their goals?
Well, we're all different, and we have different goals and different expectations. In a consultation, we thoroughly review the medical history and those goals and expectations, and at that point set up a personalized plan of care.
Contact Northwest Plastic Surgery Associates, nwpsa.com, or call 728-3811.
Don't enter the madness without the knowledge you need. When it comes to filling out NCAA tournament brackets, you can rely on luck, or you can get yourself ready to win the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge by watching the stretch run of the regular season and every conference tournament at Paradise Falls. Come down to Paradise Falls to watch every college basketball game you need to prepare for the tournament, and be sure to enter the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge with your chance to win $400 in free food and drinks from Paradise Falls. Leap into March Madness in Paradise at Paradise Falls.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Tootell and Nuanez, Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, sports talk from Montana for Montana. Live from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. The Lady Grizz lock up a bye in Boise. The men looking to stay on top of the Big Sky Conference. Tonight it is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this very fine Thursday afternoon. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Thanks for letting us be a part of it. We appreciate that very much. If you would like to find us on the World Wide Web, you can do it. 1029ESPN.com. You go there, you listen live on the stream. The stream available all the time. It is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call, you can do that as well. 329-1899, the phone number. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to start off with some women's hoops because the women's basketball teams across the Big Sky play on Wednesday and Friday this week. That would be yesterday and tomorrow if you are playing along at home, because they start this tournament on Monday in Boise. It gets going very early in the week, so they play games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, when they'll have the semifinals. Then the two teams that make the championship will have Thursday off to play a championship game then on Friday in Boise, Idaho. The Lady Grizz have been fighting through this year. It's been a year of ups. It's been a year of downs, and it is back to the upside for the Lady Grizz, who got a 70-55 win at Northern Colorado last night to clinch a bye, and in fact, not just a bye, but all the way up to a 4 seed in the tournament next week. So congratulations to them. Also, Montana State setting a new a school record with 15 consecutive wins, 81-65, as they routed Southern Utah. Well, handled, I guess, maybe the better way to say it, Southern Utah last night. We also will have our very own, our dearly beloved Tucker Sargent in here with us today. We're going to talk some lacrosse with him. The men's lacrosse season is rolling, and Montana's playing very, very well. In fact, they had an unbelievable game this past weekend against St. John's, one of the top teams in the nation at the club lacrosse level. So Tucker will be in here with us, and if I can get him to maybe stick around and talk a little bit about Boston, because I have some questions. I have some Boston questions for my buddy Tucker. At the top of the hour, we're going to get into some men's hoop. We will hear from Travis DeCure. We will hear from DCH, Derek Carter-Hollinger, as well, and speak to them just about this week, the senior night on Saturday night, playing a huge matchup tonight against the only team that the Grizzlies have not beat yet this year in the conference, which is Northern Colorado. And so it's going to be a phenomenal game this evening. I can't wait for this game tonight. Looking forward to it. But we talked to them after practice earlier this week. We'll bring that to you. And also, how about Danny Sprinkle, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcats? They're going to do an interview with us. So there you go. We will get through all that stuff, look at the standings and where we're at as well. That is our show outlook today. Coulter, pleasant to see you. Nice little trim you got there. You're looking very dapper.
Shout out to Zach, Compass Barbershop. Thanks so much for hooking me up.
My deal done. Hey, are you ready for a new truck? Get to Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton for the best deals on the best trucks, Duramax, Chevy, and GMC. Coulter, the Lady Grizz, won last night, and in fact won pretty convincingly, 15-point victory. They got over Northern Colorado, and that win coupled with the Southern Utah loss, they were in it was a two-team race for that sort of 4th seed, and their win coupled with Southern Utah's loss gets them into that spot. In fact, Northern Arizona has now dropped 3 in a row, and if they've dropped all the way to 5th place in the standings, they're still sitting on a bye, or Northern Arizona, but this clinches a first-round bye for the Lady Grizz. And for all the ups and downs that this team has gone through this year, and at times playing really well and at times playing inexplicably bad, they get it done when they needed to have it, and they can go into Southern Utah, exhale a little bit, and prepare themselves for next week. And not having to play Monday is absolutely massive, I think, no matter who the opponent is. Not so much about winning and losing, but just having that additional game for a potential future game that you don't have to worry about the legs and so on. And they will finish their regular season tomorrow in Cedar City, but they'll head to Boise and take the day off on Monday now with a 4 seed in the tournament.
I remain slightly skeptical, but they deserve a ton of credit for closing the season strong. They're on a 3-game winning streak now. One of those wins is over Northern Arizona, which is a good win. The last 2 are wins that they were expected to get, but they still went and got it done. Mackenzie Johnson deserves a ton of credit for last night. She was outstanding, especially early. She sparked a 17-0 run. I think she had 12 points, either where she made the basket or assisted on the bucket during that 17-0 run. So she was playing like a senior, controlling the tempo, getting up and down the court, And Montana was getting out and running, and that's what they need to do. That's where they're at their best. Last night in the league, most of the best teams in the league were on the road, and most of the best teams won, which I think all their coaches would be very happy that they were able to get bank road wins going into the tournament now. And so here we are. We got one game left to play, but all the seeds on the women's side are determined. Montana State sewed up the 1 seed a couple weeks ago, but Idaho sewed up the number 2 seed last night. Idaho State sewed up the 3. The Lady Grizz will be the 4. Northern Arizona's the 5. I think the only 2 seeds that aren't sewed up right now, it's between the 8 and the 9. Portland State, if I'm not mistaken, their league schedule is finished, so they're just waiting for one more result. But other than that, Southern Utah will get the 6. So we kind of know where we're at here. So it'll be interesting to see how Shannon Schwain manages the game Saturday. It's not really for much.
Portland State women's plays Sacramento State tomorrow.
Oh, so Portland State's women. Northern Arizona's the one that's done, right?
Yeah,
okay, because NAU and Portland State played last night, right? So NAU's the one that's done. Portland State, Sac State tomorrow. So that game will be, I think, for the 8 seed, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Southern Utah Montana game now doesn't have much consequence to it. So
none.
I'll ask you though. Go into the tournament on a 4-game winning streak, including having won back-to-back road games, or manage your roster, experiment with some rotations, and just see where you're at, and maybe not let it all hang out against a Southern Utah team who is already in their spot too, but that's going to be celebrating the senior night of Rebecca Cardenas, one of the great players in the league.
I would be in management mode.
You would?
Yes, I would. I think, and when I say management mode, what I mean is this: you're not going to go into any basketball game and, sit the starters or something like that and just play your straight bench for the whole thing. And if kids are playing, when the women are playing, go play. I mean, you go out there and you go to work, right? I mean, that's what you do. You lose your edge. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So go out there and improve and get better. But also, I would not understand if Mackenzie Johnston played certainly into the 30 minutes and maybe even over 25.
Mm-hmm.
I actually expect that she will, but I don't think that there's...
well, right, because that's just what she does.
But I just don't understand why you would do that. And frankly, it wouldn't... I would vary on Tuesday. That's 6 days. There's plenty of stretches during a regular season where you have that amount of time off and even a little bit more. So it's not as if it's this weird extended period where you're not having played a basketball game and then all of a sudden you got to be ready to go.
No, it'd be the exact same basically, right? Because they'll play Friday. Regardless
I'm saying if she didn't play tomorrow.
Totally. But either way, it's a pretty normal turnaround.
It is
4 days.
The difference is it's not about the Tuesday game. Certainly it is, because you got to go win it somehow. You got to, because they're going to play Northern Arizona, right? We know that for sure.
For sure.
So they're playing Northern Arizona, and even though they beat NAU twice, NAU is a very good basketball team.
And NAU doesn't have to play Friday.
That's right. Yeah,
so
they're not playing.
They have this entrenched bye, which is
they're already preparing for the Lady Grizz right now.
Completely random advantage, right?
So, I think that I mean, all of my prep work as coaches, coaching staff would be about Northern Arizona. I mean, you want to give it a look out there against Southern Utah and say something on the board or whatever, but I would be watching NAU film right now, okay? But the point is that it's not even – it is absolutely about Tuesday, because if you don't win that game, you go home. But taking Friday off isn't about the game itself Tuesday. It's about the fact that if you're trying to get where you want to go, you're going to be playing 3 games in 4 days. And I think you are preparing yourself as best you can to go as far as you can in this tournament, not just for one day on Tuesday, but for, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that would be my mentality. Now, I don't know how many people expect the Lady Grizz to be playing on Friday, but if you're the Lady Grizz, if you're Shannon Schwain, to me, you do. You do expect that. You should expect that. And so you prepare for the run that you're about to go on physically, even as you prepare for just one game mentally. Does that make sense? I mean, that's kind of what and the Southern Utah thing, we're here to play well. We're here to get better. And as we get better, then that means we are going to play well, and we're here to get a win. And I am going to, and everybody's going to play. and we're going to mix this thing up, and we're going to have fun. We're going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to celebrate on the floor that we are the 4th seed in the tournament. That's what we're going to do here. And Mackenzie Johnston, to me, is 25 minutes or less or not at all even. That would be my thought.
Up right now, BigSkyConf.com, and later on this evening, SkyOnSportsMT.com. Long-form story that I did for the Big Sky, all about the history of the tournament in terms of top seeds and non-top seeds winning the tournament, and some of the teams that have gone on runs and gotten hot at the right time, especially since the neutral site started. It's been mostly top seeds that have won the thing, but there has been some bracket busters, specifically the Southern Utah men and the Idaho State women have been the teams that have busted brackets the most, coming out of that first round
right,
and winning a couple games, knocking out some top seeds. Interviewed Seton Sobolewski, the head coach of Idaho State, for this story, and to paraphrase, one of the things that he said was, the reason that I think that we've had success in the tournament is that you don't want to change what you've been doing. He said, playing early in the week puts you in that tournament mode. Sometimes I think that's an advantage for teams that play in the first round as opposed to teams that have to wait around for a bye. You get in a rhythm, you know what to expect. You don't want to change what you've been doing that got you to that point just because you're in the postseason.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that Montana, great response by the Lady Grizz. They get destroyed in Bozeman. And they lock down, and they won the NAU game, and then they double up shorthanded and not good Sac State team. Then they go on the road, and they avenge one of their league losses, which is one of their only home league losses, by beating Northern Colorado. So I agree in terms of the resting portion of it, but I also think that sometimes that stuff's overblown. Like with a player like Mackenzie Johnston, does she need to rest? I mean, this girl has played, let's do the math. She has played 24 games where she's played 40 minutes or more over the last 2 years alone. Now, on one hand, you say, well, that would wear anybody out. She doesn't get worn out. That's why she doesn't come out of the game. She had a stretch last year where she played 9 games in a row where she didn't come out of the game.
See, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy. I think she does get worn out, and I think you see it defensively.
Sure.
I think you see it defensively at the end.
I guess what I'm saying is, though,
I
guess what I'm saying, basketball is a game of rhythm as much as anything, right? So I don't know if you really do want to change things. I think you just play how you've been playing and try to continue to play how you've been playing. And then if by chance you get to, say halfway through the third quarter and you're up big or you're down big, then you start to manage the minutes. But I don't think you go in the game with the strategy of managing the minutes.
Yeah, I would. Let me say it like this.
But isn't playing in an arena like Southern Utah, it's great prep for playing at a neutral court.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, and that could be. And I should also be clear, when I say manage minutes, I'm making up numbers, okay? 25 minutes, whatever I'm saying. The coaches know their kids. They know what they're capable of. The kids in them are having conversations. The trainers are having conversations. Like Sophia Stiles should not play tomorrow.
See, I agree with that more because Sophia Stiles has been clearly banged
up. That's right. So just let her get as much rest as she can. And Mackenzie Johnston, I mean, we even asked her how do you play all the minutes you play? She goes, I feel pretty good. I may not when the season's over, but I feel pretty good now. And kind of when you're grinding through it, that's all well and good. But again, the point is, as much as she's played, which is basically all the minutes that she can play, there's only one time where you are playing, if it goes well, 3 games in 4 days. And there's a very real possibility that she could play 120 minutes of basketball in 4 days if it was, to come down to it.
Sure.
We don't know what the second half of the championship game looks like for her on the end of that run. And so to me, I think that right now that it's a done deal, I mean, it's it. The 4th seed, you're playing NAU. It's over. It's all done. There's nothing more to be done. I think you prepare for that in every way possible.
Okay, 2 more questions for you. 1, Montana plays Northern Arizona. Montana swept Northern Arizona. Montana's sweep of Northern Arizona is the best set of wins the Lady Grizz have this season.
No question.
Montana was swept by Idaho State. They were swept by Idaho. They were swept by Montana State. So the team in the standings that has been the best relative to the Lady Grizz that they have had the most success against is Northern Arizona. Do you buy the notion of it's so hard to beat a team 3 times?
No, I don't. In fact, Statistically, it's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I don't think that this is an absolute coin flip in terms of this particular one.
It's such an interesting matchup, though, because what do the Lady Grizz have in spades compared to the rest of the league? Size. Especially when Jamie Pickens has it going like she did on Thursday against Northern Arizona last week. This year's league, I mean, look at Montana State. They're playing basically positionless basketball with the exception of their two primary ball handlers in Darian White and Oleana Squires. Fallon Frigi is playing the 3, the 4, and the 5 all at once. They switch everything on defense. Martha Kuderer sometimes might be guarding the 4. Blair Braxton, when she's in the game, is the only true 5. Other than that, they have a whole bunch of power forwards who can play on the wing. They can play in the post. I mean, Kuderer, Madeline Smith, Fallon Frigi, they're all kind of like that. They all are sort of interchangeable.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the league is, too. I mean, you have the Klinker sisters at Idaho, but they're not true bigs as much as they are rim-to-rim power forwards. The Lady Grizz have a couple actually true post players. Abby Anderson is definitely the truest rim protector in the league.
Yeah.
Jamie Pickens is one of the true post players in the league. That's the part where Montana has such an advantage over NAU, because what does NAU do? They play 4 round 1. Krika Rashid is a first-team All-League player, but she's 5'10".
Yeah.
But she's the leading scorer in the league as playing on the block, but she's 4 or 5 inches shorter than Jamie Pickens.
Right.
That's why she was held scoreless until the third quarter in Missoula, because Abby Anderson blocked her shot multiple times. And so I think that even though NAU and Montana have been relatively even in terms of who they've beaten, who they've lost to, and what their records are sitting here at the end of the year, Montana actually has the matchup advantage in this game. Now, that said, it's a huge game for Montana. NAU's playing with house money. They had the second most league wins in the history of their program already. This is already one of the great years they've ever had. Their women's basketball program has never been good. They've been good for one little period of time in the late 90s, and then 1-2 year span when they had Amy Patton and they caught lightning in a bottle. They went to the tournament for their only NCAA tournament appearance. So last question for you.
Okay.
How big is this game in terms of the future of the Lady Grizz program? Because as we know, Shannon Schwain's in a contract year. They have done, I think, the minimum of what they needed to do. They've gotten the bye. The 1-7 record against the Cats looms large, I think. But the fact that they're going into the tournament with a bye and as a top 5 seed, I think that helps the Lady Grizz. But to me, I think they need to prove that they can win a game on a neutral court.
If the Lady Grizz lose this game, I don't know, but I don't think that Shannon Schwain's coming back as the head coach.
Really?
That's my impression. Because
I was thinking about this last night, and when they won last night, I thought to myself, I think that Shannon just got herself a new contract.
Because here's the thing. Ken Haslam cannot give her a 1-year contract again, to me. Like,
absolutely.
If you're going to keep her, then you go all in and you go, you've done what you needed to do. We're going to take, we recognize the injuries that were there that impacted this program. We look at the talent that has been brought in, and all those things are true. And we're going 3 years, we're doing the thing, and we're going forward with this thing.
Mm-hmm. Especially considering the roster situation as well. She's got 2 of her daughters on the roster.
That's right. So
she got Jamie Pickens on the roster.
This is sort of an all or nothing situation. So I don't think there's like a middle spot where you go, well, let's see it again. Let's run this back one more time and let's go, because it kills your recruiting. It kills everything. And it's been a very tense year in a lot of ways, because it always is anytime a coach is coaching on a 1-year deal. It's just a fact.
It's accentuated when it's not just the last year of a multi-year deal. You were extended for 1 year.
That's right.
Because basically it's like, prove it.
Yes. Yeah,
and
that's right.
I think that I've been very critical of the Lady Grizz program. The confluence of disaster that was the first 2 years with the injury situation.
Right.
I mean, you never know how it was going to go, but a lot of it really wasn't about the coaching. You just don't have, I mean, they didn't have the best player in the league. Kaylee Valley was gone. So I get it.
This is not excuse. And by the way,
but so much of this though too, it's not about the broad results, and that's what I have always argued with the Lady Grizz. It's about the specific games. In other words, I don't think this is necessarily about winning or losing. If I'm determining the future of this program, if I'm the athletic director at Montana, if I'm determining the future of this program, I'm watching the way that the game is coached in Boise.
Yes.
And if it's a close loss, but it was a well-played, hard-played game, and you lost to a team that has basically the same record as you, who's an up-and-coming team with a great coach in Lori Payne, okay. But if it's like it was last year, where you just melt down and you lose to Southern Utah, that's where it goes awry.
Well, they're not losing to Southern Utah. They would be losing if they were to NAU.
Right, but I'm talking about last year when they lost to Southern Utah. They gave Southern Utah their last.
That's right.
Their only tournament win ever.
I understand, but I'm just saying that's not possible.
It is a different scenario too, though. Because
the thing to me though is the Lady Grizz. Everybody says that okay, you can't play in the shadow or with the memory of Robin Selvig and the program and everything like that. And, okay, that's fine.
Right.
You are hard-pressed, if you could do it at all, to find a better situation for women's basketball. I mean, obviously, the UConns of the world, South Carolina's, I get Baylor's rolling.
Texas A&M,
Tennessee has that.
Notre Dame, Oregon.
Outside of the blue bloods that are the top 8-10 programs that have always or seemingly always been that. Show me a better situation where your advantages are so much greater than at every other program that you are up against on a same basis within your conference than Montana women's basketball. It isn't there. And so the fact that the team has showed fight, has showed grittiness, has played well down the stretch, that's all to their credit. A 4 seed in a season where Weber State is on a 15-game losing streak and has 1 win.
No doubt.
And Eastern Washington has 2. So everybody that's 9th or better is effectively 4-0 because they're only beating each other. That's 4 wins that you've got. So they're 12-7 right now, but outside of that, they're 8-7.
No doubt.
And their record compared to those other teams is very middle of the road.
Totally.
So to me, it comes down to tournament time. What are you going to do in Boise? That's what it comes down to.
And that's why I remain slightly skeptical, because when you look at the league right now, there's literally no seniors on the top 5 teams except for on the Montana schools. Estefania Orrs is the only senior on Idaho State's roster. She tore her ACL before the year started, so she's out. Idaho State doesn't have a senior. NAU does not have a senior on their starting lineup. They have, I think, 2 seniors that are both grad transfers that come off the bench, but that's it.
Yeah.
You look at Idaho. I can never remember which Clinker sister is which, but one of the 2 Clinker sisters who hail from Fairfield, Montana, I believe Lizzie is a senior and Natalie's a junior, but one of them is a senior. Besides that, no seniors at Idaho either. So you don't have veteran players, whereas Montana has 3 seniors. Montana State has 5 seniors. Look at what the team with 5 seniors has done.
No doubt.
They've run roughshod all over the league. So it'll be interesting to see, because I do think that even though the Lady Grizz have taken care of business to this point, 28 games into the year, 19 league games into the year, I still think that Tuesday is an enormous game for the program.
100% agree. It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. On the other side, we're going to set you up with Tucker Sargent. Tucker Sargent comes in here, talks a little lacrosse and maybe even a little Boston. Why? Well, because he's from, not Boston, but the Northeast. Which all counts. So we'll get with him.
Per Dave in the back, Lizzie Clinker is the senior of the 2 Clinker sisters.
Very good.
If you talk about girls that got out of Montana, how did those girls not end up at one of the 2 Montana schools? They were outstanding, and they were only Class C players.
Ask no questions, hear no lies, Coulter. Wingate by Wyndham. That's where you want to go if you got a place that you need to stay. If you want to have a great breakfast, they got it for you there. If you have a conference, a meeting, a convention you need to have, they got the space for you. They're located very conveniently in relationship to both the airport and the interstate. It's basically got everything you need, whether you're traveling or even in western Montana already. You need a great place to go set some people up.
And it is tournament time right now. March Madness is about to be upon us. It's tournament time for high school hoops as well. Western Divisionals, AA Divisionals going on right now at Missoula Sentinel. There's also a whole bunch of AAU tournaments coming up, too. So for any of you future sports superstars out there, or parents of future sports superstars, with AAU season descending upon Missoula between now and the end of the month, whether it's basketball, volleyball, hockey, whatever club sport you're playing, Wingate by Wyndham is a great location for youth travel sports. They have great group discounts, and, of course, they have the water parks. So you want to get your kids warmed up. You want to get them cooled down. You want to wear them out before bed, whatever you need. They got that great water park with the water slides. Plus, they have a great breakfast, which is a free option for all guests. But the weekends are booking fast, so Wingate by Wyndham encourages you to call them early for the best room selection. Wingate by Wyndham, let them make you feel at home even when you're not.
Here at Florence Coffee Company, we developed our medium roast coffee beans to make consistently smooth and delicious coffee drinks. You can take the beans home yourself so you can have Florence coffee anytime. Pick up a pound of whole bean or ground for only $12. Better yet, if you bring your own cup, we'll give you a 12-ounce strip coffee free when you buy your coffee beans. Come to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
The Advocates want you to remember that warmer weather means more people will be out and about. Remember, slow down in residential areas because kids will be riding their bikes or their scooters or walking their dogs or enjoying the sunshine. School's still in session, so watch for kids and make sure to obey school bus laws. If you're injured due to someone else's negligence, the Advocates can help. Speak with an experienced attorney for free. Call 640-4444 or chat with an attorney online 24/7 at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. And during the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale, save up to $110 on a set of 4 select tires. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Actual discount amount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Hey Gus, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right. We got great prize packages for first, second, and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you. Tell Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday. For details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some news for you. The Lady Grizz joined the Bobcats in earning an extra day off in Boise, Idaho next week. The Montana State women sewed up a first-round bye and the number 1 seed at the Big Sky Tournament a few weeks ago, yet still steamrolled Southern Utah. That's what Montana State did on Wednesday night in Cedar City. The Lady Grizz, however, of Montana joined the Bobcats as one of 5 teams who were going to get a first-round bye, using an early 17-0 run to spark a 70-55 win at Northern Colorado. The win moves the Lady Grizz to 12-5 in league play, and coupled with Southern Utah's loss, ensures that they are now the 4 seed heading into Boise next week.
Arizona in the second game of Tuesday's quarterfinal action. Lumberjacks fell at Portland State last night, the 3rd straight loss for a team that once sat alone in second place. Montana swept NAU during the regular season.
Montana State shot 75% in the second half on their way to an 81-65 win over SUU. Fallon Friggi had 20 points, while Darian White added 17. Montana State won its program record 15th straight game to move to 18-1 in league play and 22-6 overall.
And finally in Missoula, the first-place Montana men will try to secure a Big Sky record 3rd straight regular season title tonight against Northern Colorado. Tip-off from Dahlberg Arena, 7 p.m.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't say it 'cause I know I'm cute.
Just laxing. That's what we're going to do with a little University of Montana lacrosse head coach and friend, Tucker Sargent. Hi, boys and girls. Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this very nice Thursday afternoon. Hope you are well. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate that. We are happy to be with you. And if you would like to find us on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, social medias, you can do it at Gus Tootell, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports. Those are your relevant handles. And with that, we welcome in former host of Tootell and Tucker and longtime head coach of the University of Montana lacrosse team, for a player of that very same lacrosse team, and national champion, Tucker Sargent. Hello, Tucker. How are you?
It's a great introduction, Ryan. I think people have heard that before, but I appreciate you bringing it up
Let
again.
me tell you something. Every time's like the first time when you got that belt buckle on, you know what I mean? I know you're not wearing it around, but the national championship belt
I'll wear
buckle.
it next time for you.
That's what I want to see. Good to see you, bud. Welcome in here. We wanted to we're, I don't know, a third of the way through the season, half, something like that, coming up on it in the non-conference. The Grizzlies.
I think in terms of time, it's about a third, but games played, we're almost at the halfway point.
Yeah, okay. Montana is 4-3 right now, and that is a little bit misleading because you guys have played maybe the toughest schedule in the country thus far in your non-conference schedule in terms of the teams you played. You just welcomed St. John's. Was it in Missoula that you got St. John's to come to Missoula?
Sunday afternoon.
One of the outstanding teams in the nation. It went one-goal game, 13-12 the final. That's St. John's getting the win. But you guys have been driving, like always, all over the earth in the bus. You're headed to Moscow and Pullman for the tour there this weekend to take on Idaho and Washington State. But where are we at with Montana? Because the lacrosse team right now is feels like it's in a very good place, really actually rolling.
You know, it's hard to really say whether we're rolling, whether we're doing well, whether we're growing. I mean, it's so interesting to me where we are right now because we are, 50% of our roster is freshmen. There are a lot of very new young players getting playing time. And if you would ask me at the beginning of the season, where do I think we would be? I think I would have guessed our record would be about what it is right now, but the losses would have been extreme and the victories closer rather than, closer
the other way around, right?
Than what it's been. I thought we had a pretty good fall training session coming into the season, and I liked what we had, but being so young and new and having to rely on a lot of young guys, freshman goalie, I mean, to be named one of them in the most important position, I would have been a little more tepid coming into it, but it's an interesting group. They've worked really, really hard. They've all bought in, which I think is the biggest thing, and I think that when you look at us matched up against the teams ahead of us, currently in the latest poll that just came out, we're ranked 9th in the country. We just moved up one spot from 10th. We're the highest ranked team with 3 losses by a large margin. And you're completely right. I mean, our out of conference schedule our just regular schedule throughout the whole year. If you look at it, we have one of the toughest schedules in the country, and certainly to date, we have played the toughest schedule of anyone in the MCLA.
Yeah, I mean, people don't understand, like, when you're talking club lacrosse and they hear St. John's or Minnesota Duluth, they don't understand what that is. But within the context of what you're doing, that's the powerhouse. Those are the blue bloods of club lacrosse at a national level, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
doesn't that league just rule the national rankings usually?
Yeah, the UMLC
is 5 out of top 10 teams or something last year.
Well, if you go in the top 10, all 6 are in the top 10.
There you go.
So
the whole league. Yeah.
That's kind of the league that you want. The league that is sort of the measuring stick for where you stand. And we've played 3 of them so far.
Yeah.
And we drove to Minot and had a good weekend there. And that was sort of the one where I was the most nervous. Like that was we had our opening weekend and we blew out Western Oregon, we blew out Southern Oregon. And I knew, I had a pretty good sense that we were going to win those games. Maybe not by the margin that we did, but they were games that I expected us to win. And so, really, the first tough test was, against number 1 and 2 in the country against those, and our guys fared very, very well. And it was a full team game where guys were actually, there was not one person that you can point out and say this guy put us on our back. It's that everyone had a hand in that. And it's funny, we're talking about a loss like it was a win, but they had a hand in keeping us competitive in the game. And I think that was the first two, and then you go to the St. John's game, and the guys gain confidence from that. And for the freshmen, it's really interesting. This is all they've known, right? Like, this is the level of play that they have come to expect, not knowing that, we could make a much easier schedule for them, but that's not really our goal. Like, we've got long-term end-of-season aspirations. So, we want these guys to be in these fights and know that this is what to expect, because if you want to play at the end of the year and you want to play in the postseason, this is who you're going to play.
You mentioned that you have a bunch of young guys. I think it's pretty commonly known what the barrier for entry is for college sports like football and basketball. What's the hardest part for lacrosse?
I don't think I understand your question.
What's the hardest part for freshmen to learn how to play at a college level?
Okay, well,
I mean, like in football, it's like you're just not big and strong and fast enough.
And lacrosse is a pretty much, I would say, the same.
Sport,
it's going to be the size and speed of the game. And actually, there was a great moment after right at halftime of the first game we played against St. Thomas, the defending national champions, and we have freshman attack who was in because we needed him to be in certainly he's a good player, but I probably would have preferred a more seasoned player at that, but due to injuries and other reasons he was in, and he comes up to me at halftime, and I'm just he's sort of struggled at this point, but he's getting his feet, he's doing okay, he's serviceable, and it kind of took me back, and it's like you have to remind yourself that last year this was the biggest, he was the big, strong, fast guy.
It's interesting, too, in the sport of lacrosse, especially the traction that, the juniors and seniors are going to be better lacrosse players, ball handlers by and large. But there's plenty of freshmen coming in that day one have all the stick skills, shooting skills, passing and catching skills that you would need to be able to play and be successful at this level. But to your point, it's different when the guy defending you is your same size or smaller at times, as opposed to Ben Buskey, who's just going to pick you up and dump you on your head. Like, that's just the deal.
And I would equate that more to basketball, right? Like, a lot of basketball players have the ball handling skills or the shooting skills. But when you're pressed up against other guys who are going to be more physical in your face,
can you come off the screen and hit the shot over a 6'4" guy?
Or can you power through that person and then still get that shot? Because there's going to be a lot more people challenging you physically, where you don't get to, in practice it looks great. You set your feet, you shoot, to do the whole thing. But that's with no one on you. So how do you perform when there's actually someone physically trying to stop you? And that's the biggest issue that a lot of guys have coming in.
Tucker Sargent in studio with us, the head coach of the University of Montana men's lacrosse team. And Tucker, I do want to point out you did squeak by Pacific Lutheran, my alma mater, 22-1. I'd like to give the Lutes a big shout out though, because they did cover the number, which I placed on this game at 25. So I'm very happy with the gumption that they showed defensively to keep that to just a 21 goal margin.
It was. We actually have a rule. I'm going to just kind of brag for our guys here because they've done very well. But I have a sort of a sportsman etiquette on our team where no matter who the opponent is, you only need to win by one to win. And there are games when you play like a Pacific Lutheran where you can essentially score at will. I mean, like it was just, it's apples and oranges. It was two different things.
I just want to say it wasn't always the case, okay? Just so we're clear.
Just say, but that spread, Ryan, I mean, we could have covered.
Okay, but you didn't. So I'm very satisfied. Tucker, you are on the road now for quite a while before you come back to Missoula. When's the next games here in the city?
March 29th.
Yeah, so you got
Sunday. It's going to be a nice Sunday afternoon game, end of the month.
Okay. Well, we will keep people apprised of that and of the progress of the lacrosse team as you go. Best of luck this weekend. Can you stick around with us?
Yeah, and I wanted to mention two cool things that happened to our program recently.
What do you got?
A sophomore player for us just came out today. He's the U.S. Lacrosse Player of the Month, Sean Anderson.
Wow.
For the work that we and he has done, our team, and Sean was a major part of that. So the national governing body just announced that Sean Anderson was Player of the Month, sophomore for us.
Good
and
for him.
Had a
Congratulations,
tremendous part of our team, all around two-way player.
Yep.
And then the other one thing that's pretty cool is we get a lot of press, but there was just an article that came out called The Montana Way, and talking about sort of what we do on the road, going to play all these difficult teams, and just sort of that because we're in a weird geographic location that we don't have a lot near us, that, you know, we basically have to go out across the country and pick these fights and play a lot of the toughest teams on the road. That's actually what sort of helped us in the rankings. So a very interesting article there we could talk more about later.
I read that article. It's a great article. By the way, we should also tell, mine at North Dakota is right around the corner compared to your spring break. Alabama? You going to Alabama taking
Southeast,
the boys?
That's right.
My
most of the boys never been there.
You got to note, too, these guys aren't flying charter flights. This is on the bus.
Actually, Alabama's
going to be a flight.
Southwest. We have to take the bus to Spokane because it's the only flight that allows group. It's the only airline that allows group travel.
Because I was going to ask you, what is the game plan for a week on the? How long would it even take to bus to Alabama?
It's about 36 hours. I looked it up. So
it was an option.
It was definitely a consideration, but
that's awesome. All right, very good, Tucker. Thank you. You stick around right here, boys and girls. I probably haven't told you very much about my weekend that's coming up. It's a very big weekend for me, and Tucker is an important part of this for me right here, right now. I'll explain it all to you right after this. Carl Tyler Chevrolet, locally owned and operated since 1986. Go check them out, Carl Tyler Chevrolet.
You hear the term small business all the time, but what does it mean? The answer is, it depends. Whether you're a one-woman show or employ over 100 people, at Farmers State Bank, your business is never small to us. Find the tools for success at any Farmers State Bank location, or check us out online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, helping businesses succeed since 1907. Member FDIC.
The Advocates want you to remember that warmer weather means more people will be out and about. Remember, slow down in residential areas. Kids will be out riding their bikes and their scooters or walking their dogs, so pay attention to the road. If you are injured due to someone else's negligence, the Advocates can help. Speak with an experienced attorney today for free. The Advocates will handle the hassle after an accident so you can focus on getting better. So call 640-4444 or chat with an attorney online 24/7 at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast has been a wonderful podcast series that we're happy to have been a part of, and it reaches its halfway point now. Episode 5 with Don Holst, available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Grizz Greats in your favorite podcasting platform, and it will be there for you. And Coulter, our conversation with Don Holst, an intriguing and memorable one.
Every single one of these episodes has been entertaining, historical, funny, informative, but this one was the most revelatory. Don Holst talks in detail about his 4 years as the head coach of the University of Montana, his trip to the NCAA tournament in his final season, and his subsequent dismissal following that trip to the Big Dance. Fascinating to hear Don Holst's take on how it all went down about 20 years ago.
The Grizz Greats podcast series is brought to us by Blackfoot Communications, the company that connects you more. Mike Nugent and the Bryan team at Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate and Stockman's Bar on Front Street downtown, proud supporters of Montana basketball for more than 50 years. Golder people look at the calendar, may think about college basketball, March Madness, various things going on in the professional world, but this is an unbelievable time of year for high school sports.
In February, the competition really ratchets up in high school sports. We're headed toward the state tournaments of both basketball and wrestling, and we'll cover it all at Tootell and Nuanez, 4 to 6 p.m. every single weekday on 102.9 ESPN.
That's right, covering what matters in the state of Montana. Montana's #1 sports talk radio show, Tootell and Nuanez.
Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
asking, but I don't have an answer. How come I'm
Not often we spend a lot of time talking about the Northeast, but I got 10 minutes and I need some help. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hi, great to be with all of you. Appreciate you being with us. Check out Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Wayne Tinkle, the subject of this week's podcast, was released on Tuesday, episode 8. It is there. Just go search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts and give that a listen. It's fantastic stuff with Coach Wayne Tinkle. Tucker Sargent in studio with us. We talked a little lacrosse just a moment ago, and now we got to talk a little something that I want to talk about. Now, here's the deal, boys and girls. I'm very excited, and I'm very what do they say? Blessed and honored. Isn't that what they say, Coulter? Isn't that the thing?
The Ty Gregory X special. Hopefully
That's right.
He's listening. Shout out, Coach Ty.
I'm very fortunate and very lucky. I am going to Boston Saturday to go watch the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning play hockey at TD Garden. This
number one team in the league right there.
And the number 2 team in the league, or 3 maybe. It's a top 3, if not the actual 2 best teams in hockey right now. So I am very, very excited about this. I have known about this for some time. One of my very dearest friends in the world, Kepler, had a 40th birthday. That's, I got great friends that are now headed into that decade and beyond. So anyway, this was a surprise for him. So I couldn't exactly get on to the radio and start bumping my gums about this great trip that I was going to go on. So he now knows. He is very excited as well. In fact, his Facebook cover photo is just a picture of the ice in Boston from the seat we are going to be in.
He just took the snapshot of like the Ticketmaster seat chart.
Pretty good. But here's what I want to know. I've been to Logan International Airport, and that's it. Okay, so I have never been to Boston.
Yeah, probably not the best representation of the city, but you can see it. You can see the city from the airport.
Yeah, it's fine.
Aaron Hernandez could see the city from his jail cell too.
For a while, he's been moved since.
Okay.
He actually had a pretty cool jail. They had the Suffolk County Prison is right downtown Boston.
Why are we doing this?
On that podcast, when they have the phone call, when he's calling his mom, he's like, "Mom, I love my prison cell.
Right. Well,
I clean it up every day. I can see the city." It's like
if they sold that building and just renovate it into condos. I mean, like Aaron Hernandez cell is a $4.5 million condo unit.
Okay. Can this be about me?
Yeah.
Please?
Sorry.
It's always about you.
Crying out loud.
This is your show. We just have traded off participating.
So I'm going to the hockey game on Saturday night, and I'm very, very pumped up about it. But outside of that, like I was speaking with Kepler, who I'm going on the trip with. If you went to Philly, you're like, well, we'll get a cheesesteak. If you go to Chicago, you're like, well, let's sit down and get a pizza. But if I'm going to Boston, I got no idea. What am I supposed to? What?
Are you talking about eating right now?
Yeah, eating, drinking, sightseeing. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? I got a very limited amount of time. I mean, I got like 5 or 6 hours before the game, then the evening after the game, and that's basically it. Because we're coming back Sunday.
So I mean, like the easy answers are like Boston is a very old city, right? So there's some very cool historical and easily accessible and free things to check out, which actually, I mean, I have done a number of times going back, even though I grew up as a kid going to them. It is sort of fun, especially as an adult when you have a better perspective on that.
This is where this thing happened?
I mean, like, for example, people, like the Boston, just like the Irish coming to America and, obviously Butte being a very Irish thing and a lot of Irish in Montana, but they all basically came through Boston at one time. And there's a great there's museums that talk about it, and also there's statues with it. You can get quite a bit of it. History on the placards talking about it. But I think what people don't realize is how much of a third-rate, lower-class tier citizen the Irish were treated when they came over here. I mean, it wasn't the same as slavery, but it wasn't a whole lot better either. I mean, like, obviously they chose to come here because they were leaving Ireland, but it was under very dire circumstances. Right. And when they got here, they weren't exactly, welcomed with open arms. So that's a pretty interesting thing to learn about there, because I think it's a lot of things that people just don't consider.
And then, now, is it the Boston Brewery that is responsible for Sam Adams, I think, right? Isn't that what it's...
The Boston Beer Company or something.
Have you toured that?
No, and I don't think it would be... It's gotten so big now, I don't think... You
don't think there'd be the original
brewery tours
thing?
are kind of dumb, right? Like, you've seen one brewery, you've seen them all.
No, that is absolutely
It's like, all right, well, here's where we make the stuff, here's the forklifts that carry the cans, here are the kegs, and where's the tap room, right? Like,
I mean...
but my point is, like, people, like, brewery tours was a hot thing when microbreweries were coming on, and it was like sort of like, you're going behind the mask. But essentially, like, beer is made the same way.
But here's the thing: I've done microbrewery tours. I've never done a macrobrewery tour, and Sam Adams or the Boston Beer Company is sort of in between. I guess they're macro. I mean, they're just gigantic. But that would be it. I mean,
okay, but think of like more.
Well, I get it, but you know what?
That's what it is. It's still made the same way.
The ocean, and you're actually there. You're like, my God, this is gigantic.
Yeah, but, that's true. And also, all different parts of the coast look different too, right? Like you've got rocky coasts, you've got inlets, you've got beaches, you've got coral reefs. But beer is made the same way. Like it's just more of the big, tall, tight, or silver cylinders.
We'll see. That just topped my list of things to do.
Go ahead and do that. But as far as like food is concerned, I don't think that there's anything like, I guess
signature dish, some
clam chowder, lobster, that sort of thing. But I mean, I know you're cheap, Ryan, and it's even when you're there, it's not that it's not very inexpensive.
That was going to be my question. Seattle, San Francisco, they're legendary is the wrong word. Infamous for how expensive they are now. Is Boston very expensive?
Oh yeah,
too?
Sure, yeah.
But I know everywhere's more expensive than Montana, but
I mean,
that's
like,
actually not true because Texas isn't as expensive as Montana. Texas is dirt cheap.
And I mean, yeah, like if you're going to go out into the fancier places, things are more expensive. But like
what's a pint cost in Boston right now?
That's a great question. Probably like $6 to $8, I would bet.
$8.
Okay, but
So
how much is a bowl?
Missoula.
Not in a 5-star whatever, sitting down and having a napkin placed on my shoulders for me.
Yeah.
But in just like a walk it up
pub
at the space, but a solid bowl of clam chowder. What's that going to cost me?
A good bowl of clam chowder? I don't know, $12. Like if you're talking like as like.
Am I going to be full? No.
You're never full.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough
amazing.
one. You know what though? Go to the North End, where the Italian area there. I mean that is awesome, and it's amazing too because you're talking about a place that's like 9 city blocks.
Okay,
but it is. I mean, there are people there who are straight up. They're still speaking Italian. They've never left their street. Like Boston is a very segmented city as far as there is diversity there, but it doesn't like interact a whole lot.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're coming from the suburbs and working in there, but if you're like living in one of the different areas, it's
will people know that I'm not from there?
No.
Okay. It's good.
No, you'll be fine.
Okay. Good. Tucker,
just don't talk like an idiot.
Well, we both know that ain't happening. Tucker, thank you. You've been insightful and inflammatory, so I appreciate that. Don't tour a brewery. Who's this guy?
I mean, you can. I just sounds stupid.
Hey,
You've
man,
seen it.
Enjoy the rest of the season. Best of luck to you on it. Good work on building the club up there. We're proud of you on that one. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 straight ahead. The Grizzlies, second to last home men's basketball game tonight at Washington Grizzlies Stadium in
Dahlberg Arena, you mean?
Yep. They won't be playing in the football stadium, will they?
That would be entertaining.
They should do that once. Do like a big
drop the court
game.
down.
Oh,
that would be pretty
great.
cool.
That'd be great. Don't go there tonight. Go to Dahlberg Arena. That's where the game is. We're going to talk all about a huge matchup tonight against Northern Colorado. Next. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
For more than 40 years, Boyle, Devney & Meyer has been among the most trusted accounting firms in the state of Montana. Boyle, Devney & Meyer is an experienced, diverse accounting firm rooted in historical Missoula with a look toward the future. They've established a reputation for excellence, teamwork, and community involvement. Whether you're a small business that needs tax assistance, or you are a nonprofit, or are an individual looking for a personal, comprehensive financial plan, Boyle, Devney & Meyer can help. Give Boyle, Devney & Meyer a call today, 721-3555, or visit bdmcpa.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation, or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The Lady Grizz joined the Bobcats in earning an extra day off in Boise, Idaho next week. The Montana State women, they had sewed up a first-round bye and the number one seed of the Big Sky Tournament 2 weeks ago. Yeah, they still steamrolled Southern Utah Wednesday night in Cedar City. The Lady Grizz, on the other hand, they joined the Bobcats as one of 5 teams who will receive a first-round bye using an early 17-0 run to spark a 70-55 win at Northern Colorado. The win moves Montana to 12-7 in league play, and coupled with Southern Utah's loss, ensures the Lady Grizz are now the 4 seed entering the Big Sky Tournament.
Montana will play Northern Arizona in the second game of Tuesday's quarterfinal action in Boise. The Lumberjacks fell at Portland State, the third loss for a team that once sat alone in second place in the league standings. Montana swept NAU during the regular season, including beating them 70-57 last week.
Montana State, on the other hand, they shot 75% in the second half on their way to an 81-65 win over Southern Utah. Fallon Friggi had 20 points, Darian White added 17, and Montana won its program record 14th consecutive game, moved to 18-1 in league play and 22-6 overall.
And finally, the rest of the top 5 seeds for the women's tournament are secured as well. Bobcats are number 1, Idaho number 2, Idaho State number 3, Lady Grizz 4, and AU number 5.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tootell and Colter Nuanez.
Boys and girls, welcome to hour number 2. Outstanding to be with you. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Thanks for letting us be on board with you. We appreciate that very much. If you want to call us, you can do it. 329-1899, area code 406. That's the state, people. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Reggich Brothers RV phone line. You can also Listen live on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. You go there, you check out the stream. It's available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The Tootell and Nuanez podcast, available all the time. It is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communications. Go listen, rate, review, and check out. Visit the sponsor sites. We appreciate all of that. Tucker was very nice.
Oh, I thought you were calling me Tucker. I was going to say you're already stuck.
Oh, yeah. No, he was very nice for coming in here, doing 2 segments with us. We appreciate that very much. So you can check that out in the first hour of the podcast as well.
What do you think? Should we give people a little high school basketball update before we get into this Grizz stuff?
Yeah, because we're rolling in that divisional tournament. We're going to do a full segment on just where we're at tomorrow as more games complete them. But yeah, Coulter, give them an update. Then I almost did do it right there to you.
You almost did. Well, okay, now my brackets aren't loading, so maybe we need to. I'll give you the thumbs up here in about 2 seconds.
We'll come back to it. Also, want to tell you, the last game of the season against Southern Utah on Saturday, we got a pair of tickets to give away to that basketball game for the men Grizz against Southern Utah. Saturday night, senior night for the Grizzlies. Saeed Pridgett, Kendall Manuel, Jared Samuelson. Going to be a very, very cool evening always. We will give you a pair of tickets in this very segment, so stick around with us and get in on that. How we doing? No?
The brackets
Let's come back
I don't know why the brackets aren't loaded. I can tell you this. Helena Capital routed Big Sky in the least surprising result of the day. The Capital girls are number 1 in the state. The Big Sky girls have not won a game, so 46-20 the final there. So Capital into the semifinals. They're probably the favorite in the West, but it is actually interesting because Capital is the number 1 team, and they do have multiple D1 athletes. I mean, the Barch twins are awesome players. One's going to Lady Grizz to play hoops. The other one's going to Boise State to play volleyball.
Right.
But Sentinel has a good team. Hellgate has a really good up-and-coming team. So the semifinal round could get heated there. And so this is going on down at Missoula Sentinel, by the way, for anybody that wants a little action.
You go check it out. We'll give them the
Kalispell
full
Glacier and Helena High, 42-35. Kalispell Glacier won that game in one of the boys' AA games. So we'll give you a little update here momentarily as soon as we can get these brackets to load.
Coulter, Northern Colorado tonight, Adams Center versus Montana. This is going to be it should be a great atmosphere. If you are around town tonight, go to this basketball game. This is 2 of, and for my money, the 2 best teams in the Big Sky Conference. I know that Eastern Washington, has a say in that. For sure, they actually have a better record than Northern Colorado does, but I think Northern Colorado, what I've seen this year, is the next best team in the Big Sky, and also they're the as we've talked about, the only team that has not lost to Montana yet this year out of the conference. Now, they've only played the once, and it's one of those weird things. You would think you would go through 1 through 10 and then start again at 1 and go through the 10 teams again.
Nah.
That's not what we like to do around here.
You think you'd go to Moscow and Cheney on the same road trip, too, but you don't.
No, you don't. And so the Grizzlies played Northern Colorado basically 2 months ago, lost that game by 4. Something like that. I think it was like 66-61, something like that. But nonetheless, it was a loss, and the Grizzlies are get an opportunity tonight to get them back. And again, Coach Travis DeCure, what has he lost to the same team in the same season once in his tenure?
Yep.
So he did not lose 2 times to teams.
And that was during the anomalous one down year where, I mean, quite frankly, they just had too many point guards, and no one was happy with each other. It wasn't anything to do with coaching or talent. They just had 4 point guards and 1 ball, and people got mad. And that was the only non-stellar year that Montana's had. I mean, you got to think, Montana played for the championship in Travis DeCure's first year. They were the regular season champs, hosted the tournament, lost in the tournament championship game to Eastern Washington. They played for the championship his second year in Reno against Weber State. They had the down year where they went 16-15, lost to Idaho in the first round. And then it's been championship, regular season and tournament back-to-back. That's the one thing I don't think is getting enough play. Riley Corcoran mentioned it yesterday. No team has ever won the Big Sky regular season title and tournament title 3 years in a row, and I think one team ever has won even just 3 regular season titles in a row. I think it was the Idaho Vandals in the early 1980s. So we're creeping on historic ground here. No Montana team has ever. Montana has won titles in pairs.
Yeah.
Then when Stu Morrill and Blaine Taylor, the breakthroughs in the post-Judd Heathcote time, Larry Krzysztofiak, back-to-back tournament titles, Wayne Tinkle, back-to-back tournament titles, but they have never won 3 straight regular season titles, nor has almost anyone else in the history of the league. So it's a big moment for Montana. And like Travis DeCuire said, I mean, if you're playing for first place from stem to stern, that in itself is a great motivational tactic for a young team, but also an exceptional accomplishment as a program as a whole.
No doubt. Let's hear a little bit, shall we, from Coach DeCuire. It's March, and as you start to head downhill into the tournament, things start to ratchet up a little bit, and we always talk about teams wanting to peak in March, teams wanting to hit their stride in March, be playing their best basketball in March. So I simply asked Coach DeCuire, does something change in what you do in March to get better, or is it still just a continuation of the incremental progress each day?
I just hope that when you get to March, you make fewer mistakes. You're a little more consistent with what you're doing on offense and the adjustments that you make on defense. You get to the point where you go do what you do. You might tweak a thing or here just for the scout, but the reality is you go out there and do what you do, and whoever can do what they do best typically wins.
We are at this point where, teams are who they are. And what does that mean? I mean, the identities of teams have been made and forged, and all the coaches know what all the other teams are up to in their conference and how they're trying to play. So you're not surprising anybody. You're not getting over on anybody. You're not going to all of a sudden show up with some, unique defense, some hybrid zone that they haven't seen before. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you wouldn't do it, because that's not what you do, okay? So to his point, then what makes the difference? Doing what you do better. Executing, not making mistakes. I mean, coaches talk about execution all the time, and it's sort of a catch-all term, but I think it's obviousness sometimes overruns the reality, how true it really is, and that is you got to go out there and do the things that you're capable of doing well consistently.
This is why when we were talking to the Lady Grizz, we were arguing, you were saying, okay, tomorrow night's game for the Lady Grizz is inconsequential at Southern Utah, so take some minutes off. But I think that the rhythm and balance and rotations and things like that, it's a delicate thing for a college basketball team. So I think at the end of the day, no matter what, the ultimate goal is to go to the NCAA tournament. And to do that, you are going to have to navigate an incredibly difficult path, no matter if you're the 1 seed or the 11 seed. You're going to have to win 3 games in a short period of time. You have never done that during the year, period. No matter what team you are, you've never won 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 3. You've never done it. No team in the league has done that except for last year and the year before's conference tournaments. So I just think that staying in a rhythm and preparing to play your best basketball at that moment.
Every time.
Yeah. I talked to Randy Ray the other day because I'm doing a series of features for the Big Sky.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this. I thought he made an interesting comment. He said, broadly, everybody from coaches to players to you guys in the media say it's all about playing your best basketball second and third weeks of March. And he said, that sounds awesome. If you know how to do it, let me know. Yeah. He said, it's not that easy.
Right.
Ebbs and flows of a team are crazy. And he said, sometimes, in my personal opinion, he said, I've been in the NCAA tournament 4 times. I've won the league regular season. I hosted, I think, 4 times and then won the tournament as the 1 seed on a neutral court one time. And like he said, a lot of times the roller coaster that is a season, it's completely luck.
Yeah.
You don't really know when a guy's going to bust his ankle. You don't know when someone gets dumped by their girlfriend or somebody steals somebody else's girlfriend and then all of a sudden you're mad at each other. You never know what's going to happen. So sometimes being on the upswing is just purely a matter of circumstance. So sometimes it's not even about how you prepare, but I think that's where elite coaches like Travis DeCuire come in because they do. Travis DeCuire worries about everything for better or worse, but he's able to mitigate so many factors that could be destructive that aren't about the actual basketball. And so I think that's why you've seen Montana at or near the top of the league for all of his 6 seasons.
It's Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. I think it's worth saying, and I don't think we're spilling the beans here in terms of like ruining the interview or whatever, but the interview you're going to hear from Danny Sprinkle, we talk about execution, doing the things you need to do well. Everybody thinks, well, you're going to have some great speech or adjustment at halftime or before the game or whatever, get your guys ready to play. And Danny Sprinkle going into Saturday's game, which they absolutely had to have and win on the road at a good Northern Arizona team, And again, a lot of people, myself included, didn't think that was going to happen after they got wiped off the floor in Sacramento by the Hornets. He said, we turned the ball over like 22 times in Sacramento. He goes, of course we were going to get blown out. He goes, you know what I did? In my pregame speech? I said, hey, you see the guys that are wearing the blue jerseys? Throw the ball to them. That was his big instruction to his team. Notice, look around, see the jersey you got on, see the jerseys the guys in this room have on, and then give them the ball, not the other one. And sometimes, I mean, it's funny. I realize, of course, he's just making a point about the thing, but it is that simple. Like, if you are minus 12 in turnovers and minus 10 in rebounds, you're losing by 20, period. That's going to happen to you. And you are often, I mean, great defense is great defense, but 22 turnovers, you're in control of that. Like, it is your responsibility to put the ball where it can be caught.
Perhaps the most unlikely run of the 21st century in the Big Sky Tournament came when Montana State won the league title in 2002. They destroyed the Grizz in the regular season finale in Bozeman. They beat them by 20, maybe even 25 points. Mm-hmm. The Grizz still somehow snuck into the tournament, even though they were only 7-7 in league that year. But if you missed the Don Holst Grizz Greats the Coaching Tree podcast, go check it out. You can find it on all your podcast platforms. But the part where Holst talks about that 2002 tournament, he said, I called coaches all around the country trying to figure out, how do I get my team right? We had just gotten destroyed by Montana State in Bozeman, and now we got to go back to Bozeman and play in Bozeman in the tournament the next week. How do I get these guys right? And he said he called all around. He got one piece of advice. He said, ask your kids if you make them nervous when they have the ball. And he said, so I sat down my seniors and said, guys, do you want to win this tournament? They said, absolutely, coach. He said, do I make you nervous when I yell at you on offense? Every single guy raises their hand. He said, all right, guys, here's the deal. I'm not going to say a word on offense. But if you don't have your butt down on defense, you're coming out the game. Boom, 3 games later, the probably most unlikely team to ever win, I mean, at least in this century, to win the Big Sky Tournament, the 6th-seeded Grizzlies. And not only was it wasn't just as if the bracket was busted for them either. They beat the host school in the semifinals and then went on to beat Eastern Washington, and it was one of the great upset-type runs that we've seen. But like you say, there's so many different coaching tactics, and sometimes it's just as simple as letting your guys play.
We had a chance to talk with Derek Carter-Hollinger, fantastic freshman forward for the Grizzlies, who has really had a very nice conference slate to his first year as a player for the Grizz. And our conversation with him went on a couple different things, but just generally, when you talk to a kid who is his first year, want to know what's the difference between what you thought it would be like to play Division I basketball and what it's actually been like. This is what he said.
It's been good. I think I kind of perceived it to be something that was going to be tough. I knew that coming in, but as the season started going, I started getting more used to it. So it's really helped me perform and help my team better.
The other question is about Saeed Pridgett. Saeed Pridgett has been a leader on this team in basically every way, and I think in particular to DCH at a lot of instances. You've seen them having an ongoing conversation, and Coulter said, sometimes Saeed, he's pretty adamant about the things that he wants to convey to his teammates about what they need to do or do better or whatever it might be. But just ask him what are some of the things that maybe he's learned and what it's been like to play with Saeed Pridgett as a mentor this year.
Saeed always says I'm similar to him when he was a freshman, so that's something big for me. I'm going through the same thing he went through, so he just helps me mentally and physically prepare for the season and as my 4 years here go. So yeah.
What's the best piece of advice he's given you this season?
Stay the course. Just no matter what, keep your head up, keep working. Everything will pay off.
I love the mentorship there. I love Saeed Pridgett passing along some of those words of wisdom. And I think Derek Carter-Hollinger's he's an incredibly disarming kid. He's so wide-eyed and just innocent. I mean, he's so young. You can just tell he's just such a kid.
Right.
And he was cool, man. It was cool talking to him because he is, he's just doesn't really know what's going on yet. Mm-hmm. But he does know what's going on in terms of the basketball, though. But it's interesting because when you say Saeed tells him he reminds him of him, I actually think that's completely inaccurate. Derek Carter-Hollinger reminds me nothing of Saeed Pridgett because Saeed Pridgett has been a straight dog that's trying to get his since the beginning. I mean, he was going all out to try to. I mean, he led the Grizz in scoring multiple times. I mean, he was a fierce and fearless scorer right out the gates.
Right.
It just took him a little while to navigate to get to the point where he actually was a leader that people turned to. You want to know who Derek Carter-Hollinger reminds me of? And obviously, they don't play the same position. But in terms of what he brings to the team and his sort of affable nature, is Michael Ogine. And Travis DeCuire said that too. He said that's the role that I have tried to sell to Derek in terms of what they did as a freshman. Obviously, Ogine was in a little bit higher of a scoring role when he was a freshman. But in terms of just running around, going crazy, just getting the ball, dunking on people, that's kind of what Derek Carter-Hollinger is. Like a 6'6" version of Michael Ogine, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if he's a 6'6" version of Michael Ogine, market, the Grizz are going to the tournament for the next 4 years. But yeah,
right. I mean, he's not quite there yet. It's an unfair comparison.
He is a lot. You're right. I mean, he has a lot of those attributes, and I mean, when he goes up and hammers, you go, that is a big time leaper, dunker, athlete. And I know there's some concerns because he's rolled his ankle a number of different times, kind of tweaked it, and is he going to be able to stay healthy and all that? But by and large, he has stayed healthy this year, and if he can, I mean, because he has an maybe not underrated, maybe it's not rated at all, but he, for a forward who's a big athletic guy off and around the rim, he's got a really great mid-range game. I mean, he's a great shooter of the basketball.
He can shoot it out to
for
three.
His size. Yeah, so it's good. Here's what I wanted to mention. By the way, I was completely wrong. I don't know which score I was trying to think of, but 74-66 was the final of the game in Northern Colorado the first time they played. I realize by basketball standards this is eons ago. But for the Grizzlies, Kendall Manuel went off at 30 points. This was the week that Kendall Manuel was the player of the week, even though the Grizzlies lost this basketball game. Kendall Manuel had 30. Saeed Pridgett had 15. Derek Carter-Hollinger had 10. You go, well, those two guys combined for 45 points, and you get 10 off the bench and still lose? But they did. Why? Well, Jared Samuelson had 8. That's fine. Josh Vasquez, 2. Timmy Falls, 0. Mac Anderson, 1. Kyle Owens, 0. And we are talking about tonight. No, I can't
How many threes did Manuel hit?
Jonah Radabaugh, he was 3 of 3 in this game.
Okay.
And the Grizzlies were 6 of 19, which is okay. But Jonah Radabaugh is the best individual defender in the Big Sky Conference, and he is dogged.
One of the best on-ball defenders in the history of the league.
He's absolutely phenomenal. And
he's front runner for his third in 4 years Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year.
Again,
which I don't know if that's ever happened.
There's only a handful of guys that you can't leave when they're playing defense. That you're like, I got to watch this guy D up. It's like that. I mean, it's Patrick Beverly, man, and I
not bad for a walk-on.
Not bad for a walk-on.
I mean, talk about a bargain, man. You get the guy to win 3 Defensive Player of the Years. You didn't give him a scholarship until he's a sophomore?
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy. So he's a blast to watch. But this is going to be, of course, an entirely different game from what it was, in early January. And we'll look forward to this tonight. This is nothing but a treat to me. I mean, this is fun. But it's also a huge game for the Grizzlies. I mean, if they lose this game, they are exactly even with Northern Colorado in terms of their record and having split, but they will be behind because they will have been swept by Northern Colorado. So they would be a game behind, effectively, Northern Colorado going into the last game of the season. And then who knows what Eastern Washington does. So this game tonight, if Montana loses this, they're right now controlling their own destiny. If they win out, they are the conference champions of the regular season. If they lose tonight, I think they're about a 10 to 12% chance of actually doing it because they would be effectively behind Northern Colorado and likely behind Eastern Washington. So
if they won tonight, wouldn't they clinch? Because they would effectively have the head-to-head. Well, I guess even if they tied with Eastern, I guess they'd have to win 2 in a row. Because if they tied with Eastern, they'd still have the tiebreaker. But I guess they couldn't clinch tonight. I think they could just ensure that Northern Colorado couldn't win it.
Is that right?
With a win tonight.
So
because it would be Northern Colorado's 6th loss, and it would ensure Montana could never reach 6 losses.
Right. If they beat Northern Colorado tonight, they'd be 2 games ahead of Northern Colorado by schedule going into the last game. So, of course, that would be that. The Eastern Washington deal, I'm not sure where it would go if they could lose in the last game and Eastern Washington win out, and then lose in Eastern Washington would be the regular season champions, even though the Grizzlies swept the Eagles in the regular season. So there you go. Hey, you want to go to this game tonight? Of course you do. Excuse me. First of all, it's too late to give you tickets for the game tonight. We already gave them away for the game tonight. I don't know why I'm losing. We're going to give you tickets to Saturday's game against Southern Utah on senior night. But go to the game tonight. Come see Coulter and me, for crying out loud. Hang out, say hello, and also watch what's going to be one of the best basketball games of the year on this penultimate evening at Dahlberg Arena. Get out to this basketball game, and I mean, support this team. This is the best team going at the University of Montana right now, as far, just in terms of the history and what they got, where they've been and where they've headed. This is a team that deserves your support and to show up. And hey, what else are you going to do? On a Thursday in early March, you got nothing going on. Go to the game. Now you can call 329-1899. We got a pair of tickets for you for Saturday's game. Southern Utah, senior night, honoring the seniors, and perhaps a clincher. Right, this could be a banner hanging, net trimming regular season for third straight time clinching basketball game on Saturday. 329-1899. Got you a pair of tickets right here and right now. Take a quick break. On the other side, Danny Sprinkle, head coach of the Montana State Bobcats. He joined us. You'll hear that interview right after this. Hey, the New Year's sales event is on. Now is the time to find your perfect ride at Kurtz Polaris. And also, it is snow check season. Experience the ultimate in performance, breakthrough technology, and intelligent innovation from Polaris with the introduction of their 2021 snowmobiles. New Chaos models, a new drive system, Quick Drive 2, a new 2.75-inch Series 8 track. All of it. There's 100,000 different combinations. I mean, you can find anything you need to suit all the things you want and be the first one to do it. Snow check season at Kurtz Polaris right now, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Learn more about the 2021 snowmobile lineup at Kurtz Polaris online at kurtzpolaris.com.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
At Opportunity Bank of Montana, we know that checking accounts are not one size fits all. Let us introduce you to Opportunity Bank's full suite of checking account products, including personal and business options with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. Or if earning cash back suits you, Opportunity Reward Checking may be the perfect fit. Need to earn interest? We have those options too. Call or come into Opportunity Bank for a checking account that fits you. Opportunity Bank of Montana, serving Montanans since 1922. Member FDIC.
The Advocates want you to remember that warmer weather means more people will be out and about. Remember, slow down in residential areas. Kids will be out riding their bikes and their scooters or walking their dogs, so pay attention to the road. If you are injured due to someone else's negligence, the Advocates can help. Speak with an experienced attorney today for free. The Advocates will handle the hassle after an accident so you can focus on getting better. So call 640-4444 or chat with an attorney online 24/7 at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
Don't enter the madness without the knowledge you need. When it comes to filling out NCAA tournament brackets, you can rely on luck, or you can get yourself ready to win the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge by watching the stretch run of the regular season and every conference tournament at Paradise Falls. Come down to Paradise Falls to watch every college basketball game you need to prepare for the tournament, and be sure to enter the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge with your chance to win $400 in free food and drinks from Paradise Falls. Leap into March Madness in Paradise at Paradise Falls. Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tootell and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right, we got great prize packages for first, second, and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you, so stay tuned to Tootell and Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday for details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The Lady Grizz join the Bobcats in earning an extra day off in Boise, Idaho next week. The Montana State women, they sewed up a first-round bye in the number 1 seed at the Big Sky Tournament 2 weeks ago, yet they still steamrolled Southern Utah Wednesday night in Cedar City. The Lady Grizz of Montana joined the Bobcats as one of 5 teams who will receive first-round byes using an early 17-0 run to spark a 70-55 victory at Northern Colorado. The win moves Montana to 12-7 in league play, and coupled with Southern Utah's loss, ensures the Lady Grizz secure the number 4 seed entering the Big Sky Tournament.
UM will play Northern Arizona in the second game of Tuesday's quarterfinal action. Lumberjacks fell at Portland State last night. 3rd straight loss for NAU, a team that once sat alone in second place in the Big Sky standings. Montana swept NAU during the regular season.
Montana State, they shot 75% in the second half on their way to an 81-65 win over Southern Utah. Fallon Friggi had 20 points, while Darian White added 17 as Montana State won its program record 14th consecutive game to move to 18-1 in league play and 22-6 overall.
And finally, in Missoula, first place Montana will try to secure a Big Sky record 3rd straight regular season title tonight against Northern Colorado. The Bears beat the Grizzlies 74-66 in Greeley earlier this year.
Like the dance of the blues, it's a gathers a cash when the music is through. No, she don't look back. I've come to look for America too. Then we stole the car on the 4th of July. I pawned my guitar and we drove through the night. I've come to look for America too.
Meanwhile, the Montana State Bobcats have a game tonight as well. It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you here on this Thursday evening. We appreciate that very much. Hey, Carl Tyler, Missoula, Volkswagen's home of Carl Tyler's lifetime powertrain warranty. That's Carl Tyler Chevrolet, Carl Tyler Volkswagen, and Auto Group. Coulter, Danny Sprinkle joined us earlier on talking about the wins that were this past weekend for the Montana State Bobcats, or the win that was this weekend for Montana State and the loss from last week. And just when you think that it ain't happening and it's signed, sealed, and delivered and the Cats are just going to just plummet, after losing by 29 at Sacramento on Thursday, they bounce back and get a huge win and are now absolutely in the thick of it in the last weekend for a bye in Boise. Just quickly, again, for folks, recap kind of that arc of this season in that way. It's been kind of up and down, and they've had more big wins and big losses than anybody in the conference, and now they got Southern Utah, and it's another must-win game for the Bobcats tonight at the Brick in Bozeman.
One of the stories I'm working on for this Big Sky Conference series of stories is on Harold Frey, and talked to a lot of coaches around the league about him. We always have this debate, especially when it comes to the NBA. Who is the MVP? What does the MVP mean? Is it the most outstanding individual player? Is it the player that is the best player on the best team? Or is it the player that is the most important player to his team? Mm-hmm. And the way that you define it, there's a lot of different ways you can cut it, but if you cut it in the right fashion, LeBron James should have like 15 straight MVPs.
Right.
But because he has been at times the most outstanding individual player and the most dominant player, but other times he's absolutely been the most important player on his team, and sometimes he's filled all the roles. But you said it earlier this week, and I think coaches around the league have echoed it throughout this week as well. In terms of who is the most important player to their team, Harold Frey is the most important player to his team in the Big Sky Conference. Mm-hmm. I don't really have any thought on how Montana State could win any games without Harold Frey. And here they are still somehow in the mix, despite his injury, despite their up and down. But they have done a great job of responding. I think it's a great example of new age coaching. We were talking about coaching in the first hour. Danny Sprinkle is one of the first Division I head coaches I've had experience dealing with in the Big Sky that really empowers his players. Like he said, guys, throw the ball to the guys in the blue jerseys. He also said after the game, we sat down and I said, guys, you tell me.
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. We've practiced 100 times. What's going on?
But I think sometimes that works. And I think that when you watch this team, they really are selling out for Coach Sprinkle. I think that he has been a breath of fresh air. I think that they're playing as hard as you can play. The one thing that's sort of eluded them is the consistency, because it's like he always says, playing hard and competing are two different things. And I think that's the part where Montana State needs to figure out how to play hard and compete. And when they do, they've been successful more often than not. But it's an enormous game tonight because Southern Utah is way more talented than Montana State. But Southern Utah has been on the skids the last couple weekends.
Well, they've lost to a lot of teams that they were more talented than.
No doubt.
They might be the most talented team in the league.
Some coaches would tell you that they're the most talented team in the league. But here they are right now. They lost 5 in a row before they blew out Idaho on last Saturday. But they're still a team that they have as many dudes as anybody in the league. It's just a matter of honing that in. But they're going to be a team that's hungry. And as we know, when the calendar turns to March, they are almost always one of the teams that's peaking. So it's definitely a gigantic game in Bozeman tonight.
Enjoy our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner with head coach of the Montana State Bobcats, Danny Sprinkle.
We go now to the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in, once again, the head coach of the Montana State Bobcats men's basketball team, Danny Sprinkle. And, Coach, another crazy weekend. You go to Sacramento State, and it just goes all bad for you, 29-point deficit when it's all said and done there. And then you go into a good NAU team, a team that's a solo spot of 4th place in the conference with a winning record. And coming off that loss, you go get an absolutely huge win, one that you had to have. And I think a lot of people wonder, well, man, how is Montana State going to bounce back from that game on Thursday? But your guys stepped up. You did it. No Amin Adamu in that game, and you got it done. Just talk about kind of the craziness of that Thursday game and then the character of your club to bounce back and get that big win Saturday.
Yeah, the Sacramento State game was kind of it was weird. First off, they had a great atmosphere. I mean, credit to their athletic director, coaches. Like, that place was rocking. And it's a tiny little gym, but they had a DJ. It was a fun atmosphere, and their guys played with unbelievable energy, and they knew it was their last homestand. They played a lot more desperate than we did, and we were very careless and probably unfocused. If you just look at the free throws we missed, I mean, we have guys that are shooting 80% on the year, and they're going 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 from the free throw line. We had probably 2-3 dunks that just literally went right through our hands. We couldn't catch passes. I don't know what was going on, but it wasn't the team that I've used to been seeing since November. And then it just kind of snowballed on us. And they made shots. They played great. And once it got out of hand, I mean, it was almost trying to just run sets to just get the game over with.
But, Coach, what do you say to your guys? Like, when you do have a game where it snowballs like that on you, but you got this short turnaround, like, how do you maintain focus? I know, like, midnight, we flush it, we move on, but it seems like it's a little different deal in that scenario.
It was. After the game, I didn't say much. I sat down, and I just said, you guys tell me what happened. And I made them take ownership of it. I made them tell me, what do we need to do better on Saturday so that this never happens again? What did you do or didn't do that attributed to us getting our butts whooped? And it was good because some guys spoke up, kind of got them out of their comfort zone a little bit. And then on Friday, we got to Flagstaff late Friday night, just kind of walked through their stuff, shot some free throws, got out. And before the game, I did the same thing. I didn't write anything on the board. There was no scout details. There was no, hey, we need to do this. It was, you need to be tougher than them, and you need to throw the ball to the person in the same colored jersey as you have on. That's all I'm asking. Because we had 22 against Sac State.
Yeah.
I made a shot. I said, is everybody wearing a blue jersey? Okay. That's the team you throw the ball to. Do not throw it to the team in the white jersey, and we'll be fine. We'll be okay. We'll be in the game if you do that. And if you're the tougher team and you rebound and you throw the ball to that, we're going to be fine. And, and then obviously said some things I probably can't say on air, but, challenged them, and I told them, I said, it's going to be a defining moment for this team. I said, we've always come back this year. And I said, tonight's good. We're gonna see how tough we really are. We're down a couple guys. Zach Hobbs wasn't able to make the trip because he's sick. Quentin Guilford's still hurt. Muhammad Adamu's not playing. You know, who are we going to be tonight? And shoot, they competed their butts off. You know, they played together. You know, we only had 11 turnovers, and I think 4 of them were in the last 3 minutes where we didn't score the last 3:45. We were up 18 with 3.5 minutes to go, and almost tricked it off. But you know, I'm super proud of the guys, just their effort, toughness, and resiliency.
I love the concept of keeping it simple and trying to continue to cultivate fun, even though it is sort of high-pressure games that you guys are playing. But one thing that Ryan and I talk about on the show all the time, one of the most perilous and maybe disappointing things that seems to have happened in society and that we see on full display in basketball and sports in general is just how easy it is for kids to quit and how it's so accepted now by their peers. And I've thought about your guys' team throughout the last couple weeks. There's been moments when you guys haven't played at all well and had the excuse to maybe fold it, but then you don't. How do you manage that psychological element of a basketball team?
You know, that's the hardest part of coaching.
No doubt.
You know, it really is, especially nowadays. And, you know, with some of the pressures these kids have on them. You know, I know after we're getting beat by Eastern or, you know, after getting drilled in the first half up in Missoula, you know, or the Sac State, like, I know guys are reading social media. I know I know it's affecting them. And not just social media, but the papers or peer pressure, everything. And, you know, it's, you have to be hard on them and you have to challenge them. But then the next day you got to pick them back up and you got to let them know what they did wrong and how they can correct it. Because the one thing, and I've told them since last June, like, I'm going to tell you the truth. And you're not going to like it a lot of the time, but you're never going to be able to tell me that I didn't tell you the truth. And as long as you tell them the truth, but then show them why you're telling them the truth or how they can get better, like, kids will respond. They're different than they were when we grew up, but they're not that. Like, they still want discipline and they still want to be told what's right and what's wrong.
Coach, this last weekend, final homestand of the season. It's always, you know, big when you talk about a pending senior day and all that, but also for you guys, once again, I mean, you are absolutely in the thick of it when it comes to the standings, sitting there just a half game behind NAU, 1 game out behind Portland State for that 5th and final bye. So when you talk about Southern Utah coming to town on Thursday and then Northern Colorado, it just seems like this time of year every game just gets bigger and bigger the next one that comes along, huh?
It does, you know, and especially after the win last Saturday, you know, it made this weekend bigger.
Right.
You know, now we have a chance to still get a bye because we took care of business last Saturday. And, you know, it's a huge game with Southern Utah because, they're basically right behind us and they can pass us, you know, depending if they have a good week. And so, you know, even with Northern Colorado and Montana, I mean, the league title's still up for grabs. So everybody's playing for something right now, and it's going to be a fun weekend, you know. And you know, Southern Utah, they got us, you know, in the end down there, and it was probably one of the ugliest games in the Big Sky this year. I think it was like 5-4 with 7.5 minutes left in the first half. Like it was like there was a lid on both ends, like, and we were both getting great looks. Nobody could make a shot, but you know, hopefully it's like them for that Thursday, and hopefully we can throw a couple shots in.
Saturday, you guys will celebrate your seniors, and watching the MSU women on this last Saturday was interesting because there's just so much emotions involved. It took them a while to get locked in. They ended up rallying because they have so much pride, but it's sure to be an emotional day. I know you got 3 seniors, but I particularly want to ask you about Harold Frey. I mean, you've talked extensively about him, but it's a unique scenario, a guy who is a multiple-time All-League player playing just 1 year for you, but also a guy that sat on your hiring committee. I mean, this is a guy that had your job. And so, I mean, his maturity, I talked to him yesterday for like 20 minutes. He's one of my all-time favorite kids. He's unbelievable. Well, I mean, what's it been like just kind of navigating this thing with him? Because it seems as if he's almost an extension of the coaching staff on the court.
No, he really is. I mean, I had to pay him a lot to hire me. That's why I play him 40 minutes a game and don't take him out. I owe him that. But no, he's so good, and I mean this when I say it. And he's not going to get MVP of the Big Sky this year because we haven't won enough games. And and I believe that whoever wins it, that's who the MVP should be. If Montana East or whoever wins it, that should be the MVP. Somebody from that team. But he's the most valuable player in this league. If we didn't have him, I don't even want to think where we'd be. He makes Jabril better. He makes Layden better. He makes Amon better. He's so good with the ball defensively. The things he does, and it's obviously because it's my team, but it's like I see everything he does covering up everybody else's deficiencies. He's probably he's made some critical steals, at Idaho, at NAU here, that won the game for us. Flat won the game, his defensive plays. And then he has the ball. I mean, I have him dribbling for 25 seconds of every shot clock. Like, he's got to handle double teams, triple teams, people face guard him, boxing one. And for him to still lead the team and not get frustrated, I mean, it's remarkable. It really is. I mean, I'm scared to death of life without Harold Frey.
One thing we talked about yesterday, he's a psychology major, and he says that actually translates onto the court so much. That's what one of the things Ryan and I love is so much of our sports analysis is actually psychological analysis, too. We're observing humans. But Harold seems to understand that element so well. How much do you think that plays into just his basketball IQ and his ability as a leader?
It's big. He's so intelligent. Like just as a student, as a person, his basketball IQ is probably higher than anybody I've ever coached. His demeanor, he never gets too high, too low. And, he's one of those kids that, he really is like a once in a lifetime. You don't coach guys like him. You hope to get somebody like him once in your coaching career. And that's the truth. And I've only had him for 1 year, but he's such a good human being. And that's what I'm going to miss the most is just his character.
Well, Danny, we certainly appreciate your time as always. Best this week. I know it's a huge week for you, and then Boise after that. So it's going to be a lot of high intensity moments, but a ton of fun as well. And congratulations on making it to this spot because it's all out there in front of you. We appreciate it as always.
You got it, fellas. Always a pleasure, man.
You bet. Danny Sprinkle, head coach of the Montana State Bobcats. They're hosting Southern Utah tonight. Another big game for MSU. That is our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner. We certainly appreciate Danny Sprinkle. He's been joining us consistently all year long, and we thank him for his time, certainly on that. Take a quick break. Come back. We'll wrap this thing up. Coulter has got some brackets we're going to tell you about. Also, we're just going to get one final lay of the land heading into the final 2 regular season games of the Big Sky Conference season in terms of standings and outlooks for the rest of Around the Big Sky tonight. So we'll do that right after this. Hey, this year marks the 16th annual Customer Appreciation Day at Grizzly Hackle Fly Shop. The first Saturday in March every year, they kick off the fishing season celebrating the world's best customers. Since 1988, out on Rock Creek, they have been proudly serving the fly fishermen living in Missoula or traveling from all over the world to fish our great waters. It's their pride and joy to know that their customers have kept them in business for all these years. This Customer Appreciation Day will be bigger than ever. They have a great lineup of companies that will be on hand to show off their gear and answer any questions you might have. Simms, Patagonia, Orvis, Winston Rods, Nautilus Wheels, reels. They'll do wheels too, I'll bet. I mean, it is a small wheel, isn't it? One of those Nautilus reels, Coulter? Yeah. Thank you. Dirty Water Fly Company and Umpqua. Try on waders, cast rods, see new flies, and check out the latest and greatest gear in the fly fishing industry. The best fly tires in Montana will be on hand showing you how to tie their favorite flies. Grand prizes and hourly giveaways from Simms, Patagonia, Yeti, Umpqua, Nautilus, Hatch, and more. The entire store, Grizzly Hackle, going to be 25% off, so don't miss out on this great day.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. And during the Les Schwab Spring Tire Sale, save up to $110 on a set of 4 select tires. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Actual discount amount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
For more than 40 years, Boyle, Devney & Meyer has been among the most trusted accounting firms in the state of Montana. Boyle, Devney & Meyer is an experienced, diverse accounting firm rooted in historical Missoula with a look toward the future. They've established a reputation for excellence, teamwork, and community involvement. Whether you're a small business that needs tax assistance, or you're a nonprofit, or are an individual looking for a personal, comprehensive financial plan, Boyle, Devney & Meyer can help. Give Boyle, Devney & Meyer a call today, 721-3555, or visit bdmcpa.com.
College basketball madness is happening again, and there's only one place in town to catch all the games, the Desperado. Catch every buzzer beater, every Cinderella story, and every upset on the Despo's 32 TVs, while getting your fill of the best hot wings Missoula has to offer, of course. Bracket busted? The Despo's got you covered there, too, with cold drinks by the pint or pitcher. The Despo
And Colton Nuanez here, and hope you know by now that Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast series, is out and available wherever you get your podcasts. Interviews with every single one of the living University of Montana head men's basketball coaches. We're releasing week by week, and this week, Coulter, one of our favorites, Blaine Taylor.
Native son of the Garden City, a star basketball player at Missoula Hellgate, a star in his own right for the Montana Grizzlies as a player and the head coach for the duration, or almost the duration, of the 1990s. Blaine Taylor definitely one of the most well-liked and memorable members of this epic coaching tree.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts and listen to all 3 episodes that are out now with the first 3 coaches and the bonus episodes accompanying them, and now episode 4 with Blaine Taylor. Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, is brought to us by Blackfoot Communications, the company that connects you more, the Bryan Brothers and Mike Nugent at Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate, and Stockman's Bar, proud supporters of Montana basketball for 50 years.
The Boys and Girls Club of Missoula County is hosting the inaugural Blue Door Banquet on Saturday, March 28th at the Doubletree in Missoula. The Blue Door Banquet is a fun-filled evening that benefits more than 450 children in western Montana each year. The event features music, a 3-course dinner, a silent auction, and live auction items. Doors open at 6. The program begins at 7. All proceeds from the Blue Door Banquet go to the Back a Kid Scholarship Fund. For tickets, visit BGC Missoula.
Coulter's got updates, I got standings. Together, we got you covered. You see what I did there? It's Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this very, very fine Thursday evening. So we're about just over an hour away from tip-off in Bozeman and Missoula, respectively, for the second to last home and second to last in general regular season game of the basketball season. Amazing that we're already there. Hey, if you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast is available wherever you get your podcast. Tootell Nuanez podcast. Search it, rate it, review it. Love it. Keep it close to you at all times, and listen away. It is there all the time, and it is available thanks to Blackfoot Communications and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Miltonberger Motors in Hamilton. They've been serving western Montana over 60 years. Get in and test drive a Duramax GMC or Chevy. Feel the difference and get the best deals at Miltonberger Motors. Coulter, divisional basketball is rolling. We're giving some real-time updates to the people here. Go ahead. Help us out.
As mentioned before, off the top, the Western AA Boys Divisional Tournament kicked off the action down at Missoula Sentinel today. Missoula Hellgate took out Missoula Big Sky 70-41. So I shouldn't actually say took out because Big Sky is now into the losers bracket. They will play Helena High, who lost 42-35 to Glacier. Missoula Sentinel moved into the semifinals with a 65-48 win over Butte. And right now, Kalispell Flathead leads Helena Capital 19-17. That would be an upset if Flathead wasn't able to pull that off. But right now, Missoula Hellgate, Kalispell Glacier, Missoula Sentinel into the semifinals on the boys' side. On the girls' side in the Western AA Divisionals, Helena Capital took care of business against winless Big Sky 46-20 versus Kalispell Flathead. And then out of the East, Bozeman, Billings, Skyview, both winners. The third game out of the Eastern AA, Great Falls CMR and Great Falls High, little intercity action. That'll tip at 6:30 tomorrow after some of these other semifinal games are complete.
An interesting setup, too, here for the games tonight. People, when I've transitioned into a new topic. My wife reminds me that I should do that from time to time, too. It would help.
It's amazing you have a wife.
The Bobcats are basically the 3 teams fighting for the last 2 byes. And right now, Montana State is the 3rd. They're currently the 6th seed, but they're only a game behind of Portland State, who is 10-8. They're 9-9, and so then in between the two is Portland State. Well, guess who plays each other tonight? Northern Arizona and Portland State. Mm-hmm. So one of those teams is basically going to lock themselves into a bye, and the other one is going to take a loss and have to figure it out. But if Montana State wins tonight, they will, without question, be in the 5th spot at least going into the final game of the season.
Right.
And as such, Montana State does, in fact, control their destiny as it pertains to getting a bye in Boise. To lose tonight, Northern Colorado is going to be the 3 seed. That's it. That's all. And so they will be forced. Coach Linder will be forced to sort of contend with the same conversation and question that we had about the Lady Grizz. How do you navigate the last game of the season, knowing that it's done in terms of where you're set up and slotted to be going into next week's tournament? And that could help. I don't know. Montana State in that situation, but the Bobcats, after everything, they get a chance to dictate the terms here at the end.
If you're Montana State, too, you obviously want and need to take care of business tonight against Southern Utah, but you're also rooting for NAU. Because although those teams are clustered, Montana State swept NAU this year and was swept by Portland State. So tying with either of those teams, it's like being a game up on NAU and a game behind Portland State, even if you have the same record.
Yeah.
So Montana State wants NAU to win that game at Portland State. Either that or they're going to need Portland State to lose to Sac State at home on Saturday. There's a lot that can still go on here, but at the beginning and end of the day, it's about winning right now for Montana State.
By the way, it's also worth noting, Southern Utah is not mathematically eliminated. I mean, they're 7th behind Montana State, but if they won the last 2, they could sneak into a bye in the first round of the tournament, too. So it's not as if Southern Utah doesn't have anything to play for tonight in Bozeman. Certainly they do. But you got to think in terms of it's the bigger game in terms of what could actually happen, the impact and so forth, if the bye is what it's all about, is happening at Montana State tonight. But the biggest game in the conference is 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3, however you want to kind of chalk it up, with the Grizzlies of Northern Colorado. And again, this game tonight is one that I've been looking forward to for the entire year. And now, as this season has culminated, it's only gotten bigger and more interesting because of how well these two teams have ended up being, even though I knew the matchup was going to be a ton of fun.
Well, and the identities of the two teams, too, that's what makes this so exciting, because Eastern Washington is a team that is wide open and they like to play without structure, whereas Montana plays with structure. So those two teams are clashing of styles. Portland State likes to create a bunch of chaos and havoc, but again, not a ton of structure. Northern Colorado is very similar to Montana in the fact that they love to play with structure. Different goals to what they want to do, but they both play in-your-face, hard-nosed defense. They both have in-your-face competitive coaches, and they're both led by in-your-face competitive leaders.
Yeah.
To me, I think there's a whole bunch of outstanding players in the league this year. Unfortunately, a lot of the most outstanding players are sort of one-man shows, and they don't have a lot of support. But the two best, most intense competitors, and this is to take nothing away from Harold Frakes, I think he's in that mix too, but in terms of edgy, scream down your throat, pound your chest when you dunk on them, Saeed Pridgett and Jonah Radabar are the two dudes.
Yeah, I totally agree. By the way, tonight, too, if you're going to the game, a lot of times people know, about the Grizzlies and those players. We've talked a lot about Jonah Radabar. Bodie Hume is a phenomenal kid to watch play basketball.
Great. I mean, he was a Colorado Player of the Year a couple of years ago. He's the freshman of the year in the league last year.
And he's tall. He's strong. He's a great shooter at his height. Was he 6'8"?
I think he's about 6'7.5". Yeah, he's a stretch guy for sure.
He's a stretch forward in this league.
And one other guy to watch, too, is Trent Harris. He's been the guy that's emerged as the third guy, and he knocks down big shots. The one thing I could say about that kid, he loves playing in Montana. He's always played well in Missoula and Bozeman, so he could be an X factor tonight as well.
Going to be a fun game. Enjoy it. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll round out the week and get you set for Boise, Idaho as well. Boise girls, have a wonderful Thursday evening. Thanks for spending it with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
The Advocates want you to remember that warmer weather means more people will be out and about. Remember, slow down in residential areas because kids will be riding their bikes or their scooters or walking their dogs or enjoying the sunshine. School's still in session, so watch for kids and make sure to obey school bus laws. If you're injured due to someone else's negligence, the Advocates can help. Speak with an experienced attorney for free. Call 640-4444 or chat with an attorney online 24/7 at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate. Hey, Gus, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Turn your whiskers into wishes. Make-A-Wish Montana is holding their annual No Razor fundraiser. 60 Montana children with critical illnesses are waiting for their one true wish to be granted. Your magnificent mane can help raise money that can help kids that have a wish and desperately need for that wish to come true. Fun, easy, and for the kids. There will be prizes for top fundraisers, events throughout the state, and one fuzzy contestant will walk home as the best beard in Montana. Register your beard, real or fake, at montanabeardies.com. Beard on, Montana.
Join the Bitterroot Water Forum for the 2020 International Fly Fishing Film Festival Thursday, March 5th at the Bedford Building in Hamilton at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6. Festival showcases films from all corners of the globe, highlighting the passion and culture of fly fishing. Tickets are available at the Bitterroot Water Forum office, at the Freestone Fly Shop, and the Bitterroot Brewery. $13 in advance, $15 at the door, door prizes, and a raffle to win a float trip for 2.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS.